Thank you. I did prepare something and I will refer to it, but as Dr. Chris says, yes, I actually started my journey. I was member 101 with Police on Guard. I wasn't for police, I was retired military, and when they opened it up to the emergency services and military and retired, I jumped on the chance to join, and that's how long I've known Chris and Terry and a lot of the other wonderful supporters of Police on Guard. They were, in the early days of this, the giants that I get to stand on in the fight for our actual freedom in this country again. There are a lot of groups out there. There are veterans. There are other police groups. I'm finally happy to see that the doctors are getting involved. C3 is Canadian Citizens Coalition, and it did come from James Topp. It was his idea. Obviously, when he was marching from the west to the east, he had a lot of time to think. And so that's what he's done. I'm part of another organization called Veterans for Freedom, and we don't represent all veterans, but we do represent almost 2,000 that have come out and are actively speaking against what is going on with our governments. So I want to refer to what I wrote, because you'll quickly see that this is a personal issue for me as well. So Chris, I want to say that your actions are bold and they're very necessary. Oftentimes I've thought about what I would do if I could ever motivate a doctor who lacks the courage to go against their peers and who seems mentally enslaved by the doctrine of the medical system they have built their entire careers around supporting. What would be the incentive for such a doctor to step out of the line and risk everything because of COVID, especially after everything they've worked so hard for? To understand that, I must be open-minded enough to reflect on the fact that they don't want to risk their entire careers on one single medical issue or procedure, like COVID-19 or vaccines. They must weigh the benefits of every other sickness that is within their power to treat against the very real threat that they will not be able to remain as a healer for fear of the government and the College of Physicians and Surgeons. They would risk significant years of study and a legacy of making a difference in the world on one single medical issue. But in my view, this is the greatest moral issue, not a medical issue, we have faced in generations. I've been emotionally invested in the medical system as a parent for 16 years. I have cried many tears, shared many laughs inside the walls of Sick Kids Hospital. I have felt the terror of bad news, as well as the gratitude of a successful surgery that has saved the life of my own child. The feelings I have towards individual doctors and nurses are strong and forever, especially when you are vulnerable and powerless in ways that defies a lifetime of building my own independence and self-reliance. It's hard to surrender the protection of your loved one until you realize that the best way for you to protect them is to bring them to the healers. When all you can do is bring your child to a doctor and put your faith in their knowledge and their capability, that is truly a humbling experience. My child's journey in hospitals is far from over, but we live in a very different time than we did not even 3 years ago. I'm no longer confident that I can abdicate my child's protection to a system that has destroyed its own reputation so easily and so recklessly. The sanctity of the public's trust in medicine has been violated because of political science fortified by fear, not medical science or courage. For science to be science, it must be questioned. For medicine to be medicine, it must rely on discovery through a rigorous scientific method. This methodology ensures that the public is protected from harm. If doctors do not question the science and patients cannot question the doctors, we don't have medical science, we only have dogma. Dogma thrives when we don't have the moral courage as patients to question our doctors. Dogma also thrives when doctors don't have the moral courage to question the medicine for fear of outrageous attacks from the College of Physicians and Surgeons. This is exactly what we have seen over the last few years. And I'm happy to hear that at least one of the lawyers is here to put an end to this. Almost every Western civilization abides by the concept of informed consent. Informed consent is enshrined in Canadian law under the Criminal Code of Canada. Yet we have doctors that have blatantly disregarded informed consent because they are following the lead of the government and bodies like the CPSO. If we are going to once again return to a time when we trusted our institutions, the belief of moral courage must be displayed by all. No one person or any career is exempt from moral courage. Too many doctors displayed severe and harmful lacks of moral courage. So have the police. So have our educators. So have our elected officials most of all. They often put aside emotional aspects of their patients or their constituents to survive the burden of their work. But that's not good enough. It's just not good enough. We may never return to the society we once had, so we must recognize that perhaps our institutions were built on sand. The last few years have exposed the systemic weakness we have when faced with questioning our authority as an individual professional, especially when the authorities no longer make sense. As with the American concept of the separation of church and state, since when have we allowed the amalgamation of medicine and the state to become so perverse? We need the doctors to find their moral courage and stand tall, to affirm themselves as a new line of defense between protecting the public from out-of-control CPSO, who does the bidding of an out-of-control government. Only with courage and resolve can we rebuild our institutions on rock-solid foundations. Right now, the most important people who have the ability to repair the public's trust is from medical professionals themselves. Dr. Shoemaker and many more doctors and nurses are coming forward more frequently and with more conviction. The dissenters are growing in numbers, as it should have been from day one. The time for them to assert themselves is now. Their role is not only to heal the body, but it is time for them as individuals to deliberately heal the public's trust in medicine once and for all. Thank you.